So, hi, I'm Lily Tomlin, and you can catch me, and
hey, you can catch me too. I'm Edith. And you can see me and Lily behind the scenes, and that's the truth. Hey, is that okay, Lily?
yes, excellent. Was that all right?
Behind
the scenes.
behind
The scenes. Behind
the
scenes.
Valuable? Worthwhile? Me?
Welcome to Behind the Scenes, E's half-hour look at the making of an animated special about Edith Ann.
You're the doctor. You should know, right? Hey, good thing we have this all on tape.
I love that drawing of her because it's, you know, down on her. She looks up, Dr. Hall says, I'm getting a picture of a very valuable, worthwhile human being. You know, I've named Edith Ann.
And Edith says, valuable? Worthwhile? Me? Well, she says, you're the doctor. You should know.
You heard right. One of actress Lily Tomlin's most popular characters is coming to television in a brand new incarnation, and we're going to show you how it's being done. In the next 30 minutes, we'll tour the studios of Klasky Csupo. The Emmy Award-winning animation and graphic design firm is collaborating with Tomlin and writer Jane Wagner to bring the Edith Ann special to the small screen. We'll discover the show's assistant director's connection to his leading lady.
One of the first jokes I ever remembered as a kid was Edith Ann on Laugh-In sitting in her rocking chair and saying that she saw her mom crying because she was crying because her wedding photos were black and white, so she said she colored them. And that was something I repeated at school the next day.
Also, we'll find out from Tomlin herself who's really in charge.
I mean, I always make fun of myself in shows and stuff that I do, you know, like I say, like Ernestine, or it makes me think of an old piece Ernestine did once where she wants to get on a show, you know, and Lily's on the show as a star, and Ernestine's trying to get on the show. And she says, oh, Lily Tomlin, always screwing up her face and talking funny, you know. So that's what it seems like, but, you know, to me they live.
Well, Edith Ann is...
They live, but they don't take, but I possess them, they don't possess me.
And we'll discover the secret of Edith Ann's appeal.
It's both the eyes and the mouth. They're very particular.
But first, let's give fast talker Lily Tomlin a chance to tell us why Edith Ann is becoming an animated personality.
Like if you said to me, Edith Ann, like, well, see, like, for years I wanted to have, so first of all, I did this little girl, and she sat in the rocking chair, and we always, well, the thing about it was animation was, see, first of all, you have this older person that's so, who wants to see someone who's 5'7" and, well, let's face it. It's more effective if I could have done her in a drawing. It would be more. First of all, you have the idea that you can make it exactly the way you know. You don't have to. You're not. First of all, you're not. You don't have the. First, you don't know how well lit I have to be.
Tamara, I was just thinking, whenever you can, see if you can see any place where you can build empathy, like a close-up where she's looking at something, whatever.
Tomlin's partner, writer and executive producer Jane Wagner, has her own reasons for wanting to do this project.
One thing that you know when you want to do more is when this little character knocks on you and says, I got this story I want to tell, I got this one, I got that one, wait a minute, we should maybe not just scrap those other two and let me do this one, and I got that feeling.
The development of Edith Ann is what brought Tomlin and Wagner together in the first place, and they've been a successful team ever since.
I first sought Jane out for Edith Ann 20 years ago, or more, a little more than 20 years ago. When I had to do the Edith album in '72, I wanted Edith to be deeper and richer than she was on Laugh-In. I wasn't satisfied, you know, just being kind of, you know, Edith was sensitive and smart and philosophical, but she was pretty much, you know, somewhat, I don't want, wisecracking isn't the best sort of phrase to use. It's not really fair to her, but I just thought she could be deepened. And so I wrote Jane and asked her if she would work on the Edith Ann album with me. This was it was 71, but we wound up doing the album. I finally heard from her in January, and we did it in January of '72. And and she greatly expanded Edith for me. And so naturally, and of course she's expanded Edith even more so for these scripts.
Tomlin and Wagner spent several years pursuing a multimedia project featuring Edith Ann before hooking up with Klasky Csupo.
This is Edith's dollhouse, and this was actually, this photograph was taken of a live-action set, because initially when Lily and Jane began to develop this project before Klasky Csupo got involved, they were going to do a clay project.
We'd always thought about Klasky Csupo because they were doing The Simpsons for the first 3 years. After that, we didn't really want to have any overlap. You know, we thought, well, they're so immersed in The Simpsons, and we want ours to be totally separate and unto itself. Although I'm a big fan of The Simpsons, and so I kind of avoided coming to Klasky Csupo or looking at their work, and other than what I knew of it, you know. So then one day, I just decided I live in Los Feliz, so here they were so close to my house. And I was going to Portland, I was going to England, I was going to, you know, every other place in the world, and here they were like 6 blocks from the house. So I said, let's go over to Klasky Csupo. So we did. And when we met Gabor and Arlene and everybody else here, we thought they were real good, and we liked them. And they seemed to respond to the material, and I think they understood what we wanted, and so we started working together.
Is this the first act?
Second act.
Oh, the second act.
We did first
right.
act
Yeah, we did,
Wednesday.
I immediately knew what was charming about that character and why the audience liked it so much. The little rebel in that little 5 or 6 year old girl is a lot of people can relate to that kind of behavior, and I think in everybody's life, one time or another, they felt the same way.
When we return, see Edith Ann transformed into a tool of mass marketing.
And actually, this is like an early precursor. Actually, it's a bad joke, but it's a precursor of the Edith Ann marketing model doll. When you turn her upside down, she'll cry and go, "That's the truth." You know?
Behind the scenes. Behind the scenes.
Like her head is on her head. Her head is a little short, little fat head. You know, a little short, fat arm. And her galoshes. Yeah, and her galoshes have things in them. Many, many secret things.
Welcome back to more of E's half-hour behind-the-scenes look at the making of Lily Tomlin's animated special, Edith Ann.
A lot of junk.
Yeah, yeah.
That is not junk, mister.
The design team at Klasky Csupo has tried to remain faithful to Tomlin's acting in translating this endearing personality into an animated character.
It's based on an actress' performance, so that's why it is really important to get the acting. She is very sensitive about that. We get the essence of Edith Ann. And me too, of course. I don't want to deliver something that is taking away from the original show. So I would like to show something that has the traditional Edith Ann and something more.
This is Jerry Richardson, and he's the character designer.
Hi.
And he's the one who's come up with the look of the characters and the style of design, along with Tamara, the director, and Gabor Csupo's input, and Lily Tomlin's and Jane Wagner's input.
It's a lot like taking a little bit of yourself as well. I look at some of the drawings of some of these character designs, and I see a little bit of me in them in terms of like maybe even a physical structure or just like an expression. Like I'll look in the mirror and, you know, make a goofy face, you know, and yet that's a little bit of me, as well as looking at the videos and really studying Lily's character. You know, even looking at her other characters like Ernestine and you know, the one ringy dingy, and doing that kind of stuff helps me figure out, well, maybe these characters fit into that universe, or maybe they don't. And maybe out of 500 drawings, actually, maybe only, to be honest with you, maybe only 12 really speak of Edith or her character. You know, like these drawings up here exemplify that these are more in with Edith's type of character. A drawing I did today is something that might be something she would do, kind of like going, and that's the truth, you know, and doing this kind of thing, or like fidgeting, you know, pulling her shirt down or something. So as a designer, if I can cap on a couple of those things that speak of her character, then I'm successful. Otherwise, I might be wearing, you know, a yellow jacket and selling real estate in a year. You know, who knows?
The next thing that happens after design, or somewhat simultaneously with design, once we've sort of have a little bit of a style set, is storyboard. And this is Ramey. And Ramey's our head storyboard guy, and he's basically storyboarded both shows. What happens in the storyboard stage is that Ramey will take the script and break it down visually into scenes.
If you're a monster, then we'll just pack you off to the monster specialist. I cannot reveal it. I just cannot. It's just too rotten.
Getting the track gives me a lot of information on how to direct a scene. There's intensity, and how loud a person talks can tell me how close they are to one another. If they're across the room or something, which would suggest a long shot. If it's intimate and quiet, I'll do it as a close-up. And you know, and if it's just back and forth kind of banter, you don't want to just find yourself in a rhythm where they're going back and forth from close-up to close-up. You want them to kind of interact, and who's dominating who, and maybe like have them interact or move around in a frame. So these are like the tricks of the trade, and it all comes from the track. It's you know, it's the performance. Well, right here, when this was first done, it was done by another artist, a very good artist, and it turned into, it was just close-ups, and there's a lot of back and forth, and I wanted to try and use their size discrepancies as something to help the scene along. She's small and she's really big, and she's hiding because she doesn't want to confess. So I had her, this was my idea, was just to have her flop down, grab a cushion and put it over her head to hide. And so it's sort of like hide and go seek here. And this was not in the script. It was just all dialogue. But again, it's the performances suggest intimacy and, you know, and vulnerability, and so I was trying to use that here.
Oh, I like when she falls down and she lies down like that. You know, she says, when she says Tui Larson got on the bus and everybody's saying happy birthday, and Dr. Lopez says, and you thought they might not do the same for you. And Edith is lying on her, you know, just completely spent. She says,
Yes, I felt it was unlikely.
I can't do her. You know, it's just, that's why it's so thrilling to see her come to life in animation, because now instead of a great big old grown-up person trying to act like she's 6 years old or 5, you know, you have this nice little creature that's been drawn, and she's in the right proportions. And
the truth can be made up if you know how.
Character artists get into the act when behind the scenes continues.
She looks at her butt and she goes, "Be aware, dare to care."
Behind the scenes. scenes.
Hey, welcome to Edgetown, little birds.
You're watching Behind the Scenes, E's 30-minute look at the animated debut of Edith Ann.
Ooh.
Actress-comedian Lily Tomlin first created the character of Edith Ann more than 20 years ago.
Why I wanted to do it is because, first of all, it's a little girl. It's the central. The protagonist is Edith Ann. To have a female child as the center of this story is extremely important. And if we can, and to make it, and to put the focus on this little girl's feelings and thoughts, and it's another kind of sensibility, in my mind it is. And because we really look into her psychological and inner life and her. And she talks about how she's responding to the world, really, and what it's like to grow up first as a child and as a female child and as a human being.
Although the actual animation of the shows will be done in Korea, all the layout work is being done right here at the Pulaski Chupo Studios.
This is Matt and Tony and Andre and Sergey behind the wall. And what gets done here is every one of the layout artists receives a section of the storyboard and then takes each scene and elaborates on it further with acting and action poses of each of the characters in the scene, and what we call layout stage. So, Matt, do you want to tell them about your scene?
Well, the storyboard shows that Edith and her new acquaintance, the bag lady, have gotten in trouble and they're at the police station, and it's being used as a way for them to get to know each other better as in the story. So at this point, Edith is describing to her one of her phrases where she says, "The truth can be made up if you know how." Just this whole section, this is one scene. It starts here, where she's describing the dialogue, and then they recognize each other, or they react, and then she looks at her button. I haven't gotten to that point, I've just gotten to this point.
So see, he'll do a very rough background sketch that shows us where we are.
Right, within the field.
Yeah.
And then she's talking, and then
She says,
forward.
here, you can read the dialogue if you want.
She says, "Well, but I do not. The truth can be made up if you know how." And she says it the same way. The truth can be made up, and then she leans forward to say, "If you know how." And I don't know, you can't see it through here, but the layers interact, and then they both react. They snap back and go, "Hey."
Hey.
And they lean forward, but that's as far as I've gotten with this. It's early in the morning.
So what we do with each layout is we take the storyboard, which lays out the action for us, and go through and actually put the acting nuances and exact placement of the character within the field. So he's got a field guide, and he wants the camera to basically be this close in on these characters. So he sets, the layout artist sets the fielding, he sets the composition of the scene even further than the storyboard does, and then he goes through and he puts see like the expression on her face,
Right,
the exact body movement. It just basically elaborates a lot further. For every panel in the storyboard, there'll be several layout poses. So it's just an elaboration of that.
The background artists also have their work laid out for them. Their job is to set the stage for the story, right down to the last little detail.
It's kind of cute. Junk in Edith's backpack.
Mm-hmm.
So you decide what kind of junk she gets?
Yeah, it's pretty. We have a list of things that Edith will have, and I can just decide what it looks like then.
This is the color keying process, and what happens here is once the design stage is complete, we scan in all the designs of the backgrounds and all of the characters, main and incidental, and we color key them, meaning we set what color every wall, every prop, every character, their clothes is, etc., so that everything gets scanned in, and Daniel and Andrew in the other room will go through and set the colors, and they'll go through several approval stages, and they can, as you can see, change the color at the touch of a button, and until we're finally happy with it and everything works from values to matching to all the considerations that need to be taken into account.
Basically, I mean, this is Edith Ann's room. That's Edith's sister's bed, and that's Edith's bed. So basically, we make up the colors, make the room work. until the directors are basically satisfied. The catch with this system compared to the other old system is we have to do each single layer, that is not only each scene but each turn around to each room we have to do, compared to with regular animation you just do the main room and then everything else just follows because it's just systemized. When we first started, the director of the show gave me this book as reference, and it's just a children's book by a Japanese artist, and it gave us the kind of ideas, not the look of the show, but the colors she wanted, color schemes. We've even moved away from this now, though it gave us a good start. You know, I tell people I color cartoons, it's like they didn't realize that somebody actually did that.
The eating habits of flies when behind the scenes returns.
Because one will have to eat while the other, like one will have to breathe while the other talks, one will have to eat while the other talks.
Yeah. Can't be done.
Because it would have been great, if they were just like down talking to me.
Behind the scenes. Behind the scenes.
I can feel it. I am just going to have a fit.
Welcome back to Behind the Scenes. Ease look at the making of an animated version of actress Lily Tomlin's popular character, Edith Ann.
No more caffeine for you, Miss Rumpelstiltskin. That's why you get these mood swings, you know.
In the last 30 minutes, you've watched the show's creative team bring Edith Ann and her world to life.
The biggest challenge is to turn that character into a total different looking media, which is very different than what the audience used to see or remembers, and also to be faithful to that character. So this is what's fun about it. We don't like to just do whatever is already proven successful. We always like to go after something new and different, and in animation to be that realistic, almost like a documentary style. This was a really challenge for us, but we're really enjoying working with that kind of thing.
I like her if she makes a baby's foot. You know how people, you put your fist and then you make toes.
Tomlin and her partner, writer Jane Wagner, have been involved in every stage of the process. And the ideas keep coming as they view the layout animatic with the Klasky Chupo crew.
Did it ever occur to you that we would rather have our cookies first and figure paint later, Doctor?
Boom.
We don't want
Yeah, but what is happening? She's going
Oh, then
from
you're
one
pushing it.
emotion
Oh,
to
I gotcha.
another. So
Of
we have
course.
to
So she goes, oh,
to
doctor.
and then
Yeah.
and then we
Okay.
have
Oh no,
to
that's great.
push in
That's
and
great.
cut.
That's
So
great.
we
That's
need
great.
time to change.
For sure.
Okay, so
See?
the timing's
I don't know
fine.
why I
We
don't
need
just
to
go
have
home.
those-
Well, this is me leaving. Full steam ahead, Doctor. If you ever need help finding pieces to your puzzle, hey, call me anytime. Well, see ya.
I can't decide. I don't know. I can't. No. I know. Yeah, I knew that. I know that kind of. I know about Edith Ann and I know about work and those kinds of projects, but I don't know that well about. I don't even know what kind of bedspread to buy. Okay, what kind of bedspread should I get? Oh dear. You know, kind of go crazy.